Watching these games last night, two things that really struck me. Number one, we're lucky in New York because we have the two best pitchers in baseball, I think, in New York. One is obviously Jacob deGrom for our Mets, and the other one is Gerrit Cole for the Yankees. And I want to watch every pitch last night to see what he was doing. And if you want to know who Gerrit Cole is, all you have to do is go back to the second inning last night. Mm-hmm. First two guys get on, next three guys struck out. And his slider was just tipping the little strike box that Yes has on the screen. It just kept hitting that lower left. If you're facing it, it's the lower left-hand corner against the righties, going away from the righties. That guy was an animal last night, and that's top-end pitching right there. That's about as good as it gets when it doesn't start the way you want it to. So he scuffled a little bit the first inning, scuffled at the beginning of the second inning,
and retired 15 straight.
And then just said, you know what, enough is enough. I'm going to go out here and I'm just going to basically show everybody how great I am. And this is the 8th or 9th game or 10th game of the season, whatever it is. And he's out there, and he is just throwing. He hit 99 a couple times. That little slider, 88 miles an hour, down and away from right-handers. They couldn't catch up with it. And this is what an ace is supposed to look like. Now, he won 6 innings. He threw about 98, 97 pitches, whatever it was. But, man, I'll tell you, when he dug in, he dug in. And good for Kyle Higashioka. Here we are, a day after a game where he hits 2 home runs and catches Gerrit Cole, and everybody's happy. Nobody's bitching and complaining. The lineup's still not hitting, and neither are the Toronto Blue Jays, by the way. But Cole was everything that the Yankees bought last night. And, he had games like that last year. But, like last night, there was nothing else going on other than the Knicks, and they started a little bit later.
Sure.
So being able to watch and just see what he's able to do and how he does it. You forget really how good he is, man.
Well, I think that you take it for granted because you don't have to worry about it. But the rest of the staff you have to worry about. With the injuries with the Yankees, you have to worry about. Their lineup you have to worry about a little bit. With Gerrit Cole, it's a given. It's sort of the same thing, as you mentioned, with Jacob deGrom. Sort of the same thing with the Knicks and Julius Randle. Your stars are going to be there, and that's a great thing. But when you want to get to that championship level, of course, you have to count on others, and that's the big question mark with the Yankees is the rest of the rotation after Gerrit Cole. But you need him to be great. You paid him to be great. He came here to be a leader in his prime, and my God, when he is on like that, it is just so entertaining to watch.
That was pitching one-on-one last night. It was. And again, like I said, he scuffled in the first couple innings, but then after that, the second batter gets on in the second inning, and he strikes out the next 3 guys. It was like he got pissed.
Yeah, well, that's what he is.
And that's the part that I love. That's the competitive fire that you need. And all great players have it. It shows itself in different ways. But last night, it was evident just how good he is. Now the other thing, then you flip over the Knicks. And the Knicks needed to win this game. And the Knicks now have won 3 in a row. Their next 2 out of 3 are against New Orleans, the worst defensive team in the league. And sandwiched in between those 2 Pelican games are the Mavericks down in Dallas. So they got to take 2 of the next 3. And all I could say, we know about Julius Randle. He's definitely made his mark here. But there are guys like Nerlens Noel and Elfrid Payton that are the unsung heroes. And Payton, I saw an article this morning written about him. I was glad to see that because it probably doesn't get a lot of love from a lot of people because they're always thinking about they got to get the next point guard in here, and we got to get this guy, we got to trade this guy, we got to get a free agent in here and all that other stuff. Well,
they still do.
I understand that, but, again, without making a trade and doing what they're doing other than bringing in Derrick Rose, these guys basically are trying to get this team into the playoffs and kind of, I think, reward the Knicks hierarchy and the coach for not making the major trade. They got Dennis Smith out of here. That's one of the reasons, they had to get him out of here. They got Rivers out of here. Those guys just were not fitting in for whatever reason. And they bring in Derrick Rose, and guys like Nerlens Noel and Elfrid Payton are beating the teams that they're supposed to beat. That's the thing. When you lose, like in past years, the Knicks would lose the teams they had no business losing to.
They lost to everybody.
Right, it felt that way.
They did.
But now, even guys like, Burks and Gibson, they're all, it's like a team. It's like the team is winning because they're playing together. And, as a Knicks fan has been so disgusted and disgruntled over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
This is, you can root for this.
Oh, of course. And we've been saying that the entire year. The pride is back. I mean, outside of Obi Toppin, there is not a single guy on this roster that gets minutes, and Obi Toppin doesn't get a lot of minutes, that isn't doing exactly what Tom Thibodeau needs them to do. I mean, you rattled off the names. I mean, Alec Burks, Reggie Bullock, obviously Elfrid Payton last night. There were some times earlier in the year that his lack of scoring was a little bit frustrating. But all of it, Nerlens Noel, especially after the Mitchell Robinson injuries. So all of those guys, you're getting so much out of them. Taj Gibson as well. So, I mean, that's the thing that you love is that it's deep. There's a couple of guys in R.J. Barrett and Julius Randle who really are the leaders of the team, those two guys. And then after that, everybody has been spectacular and very, very good. And we'll just see what the maximum that this team can give the fan base this year. And I do believe that they're just about doing that. They are about as good as they could possibly be.
But you know why? Because it's effort and it's defense. Now, last night they forced, I think, either 24 or 26 turnovers. They didn't have a great night shooting the three-point shot. They only made five three-pointers, and they still won. And the most important number for me is the fact that they held the Lakers under 100 points, and they don't have, obviously, they're big too. So you have to win the game. You have to win that game. I don't care what you say. If you want, and I don't want them to be like, I want them to be like in the top 6.
Of course.
I don't want to have them have to play either Brooklyn or Philadelphia in the first round of the playoffs. I don't want them
to do the play-in game
I don't
stuff.
want them to do the play-in stuff. I want them to earn a playoff spot. And if they continue to play defense the way they're playing, and you have your key guys doing what they have been able to do through the season, then I think the organization has rewarded this group of men an opportunity to do it for themselves, which I think is great. And even like Derrick Rose last night was really, really good again. And he's playing about the right amount of minutes. And that's the thing. So, man, Thibodeau, I don't think he sits down all game long. He's preaching on the defensive end of the floor, screaming at those guys. You can hear him.
Of course.
And it's great. It's great.
And they're responding. I mean, they're not.
The only thing I just wish I'd get rid of those stupid uniforms.
I know. And last night, so I felt like you last night because these things bother you more than they bother me. But there's something about you only get to see it a couple times a year.
You got two great franchises.
Right.
I want to see the Knicks uniform against the Laker uniform.
I wanted to see the home white Knicks uniform, the traditional one, against the yellow Laker road uniform. That's what I wanted to see. And that, to me, would look beautiful out there. And even if it's the blue, if they decided to go a different route, just something other than, just give me the traditional Knick uniform.
Who came up with these stupid uniforms?
Give me this traditional, there's some designer that came up with it. I'd have to go back and find it for you.
I don't really know what the story is behind it. But, man, like, the white Knick uniform is like classic.
And imagine with the Lakers out there,
why do you even
that.
mess with a classic uniform?
Yeah.
And you finally got a team that's reflective of the uniform.
And it's got a saying on it that's cheesy for people who live in New York. Like, nobody who lives in New York says it's the city that never sleeps. Nobody who lives in New York calls it the Big Apple. I mean, and that's on the jersey, the city that never sleeps. Just last night it bothered me. I try not to get too bothered by those things because I know they're not marketing to me as much anymore. But last night I wanted to see the Knicks and Lakers in the traditional uniforms at the Garden. That's what I wanted. It didn't take away from the win for me, but I was a little bit perturbed by that.
Jerry West, Gail Goodrich, I don't know, Clyde Frazier, Dick Barnett. I mean, those are the classic wars between the franchises.
Sure,
man.
Of course.
And then, of course, you have Patrick Ewing in the middle there, and you got Magic, and come on. It's like,
I know. City that never sleeps.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, someone designed that jersey. I remember somebody some famous designer.
Banksy?
No, I don't think it was Banksy.
Come on, if it's not, Banksy's doing everything for the Nets, right?
Yeah, I know that's a different guy.
That's another guy.
That's a different guy. Knicks City jersey designer. I'll look up.
They actually sit in a corporate boardroom and say, "Yeah, this is a great idea."
Yeah, Kith is the one who did it. Kith.
Well, tell them to come up with something else.
Ronnie Feig. Ronnie Feig of Kith. Design.
What is Kith?
Kith. It's Kith.
Kith.
Kith is a very popular clothing company.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so that's who designed it, and it's just
it's the worst.
It's
the
really
absolute worst.
And you know what that is right there?
What?
That's Steve Stout. Steve Stout got that done, that jersey, I can guarantee you.
No way.
Brand ambassador, brand marketing genius Steve Stout definitely came up with those.
That guy's been missing in action, dude. He is not. Well, we have not heard from him.
He's behind the scenes now.
We have not heard from him since, he compared himself to Drake.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe he's the guy that had the whole idea about the Oakley number up in the.
I think it was too.
Yeah, right, because he would try to fix the brand, so to speak.
I'll tell you, this is my theory on what happened. You tell me if this sounds right to you. So Steve Stout gets this job.
Okay.
He's a guy who has been out front in the media before. Decides to go on with Stephen A. Smith. Makes an ass out of himself. Then Worldwide West comes over to Steve Stout and said, listen, you made an ass out of yourself. I've been running stuff.
I don't see Worldwide West doing that.
Well, okay, in his own way.
All right. Okay.
But, all right, maybe him just going, hey, Steve, that didn't really work out, did it? I've been running stuff from behind the scenes for years. Okay. People they don't even know they can't even pick me out of a lineup. But I'm Worldwide West. I run things from, in the shadows. You got to do that. You can't be going on ESPN saying stupid stuff like that, man. Just come back here in the shadows with me, and we'll pull all the strings, and nobody will know anything about it.
Exactly. That's the way it should be, right?
Yes, that's what I think it should be,
All
yes.
right, so then do you think one or the other basically reached out to Oakley to do this?
I think it would. See, I think Worldwide West is more of the trying to convince players to come to the Knicks. I think Steve Stout is more about stuff like Oakley and the jerseys. That's what I think. I think that Worldwide West has the relationships with the players, tries to figure out how to talk to them and get them to the Knicks. And I think that Steve Stout's the guy who's talking jerseys, he's talking Oakley, he's talking that stuff. That's what I think. But I don't know. I really don't know.
I have no idea either.
I don't know. But hell, it's been a great season. It's been a great season. Man. Yeah, and that's really all that matters. I mean, they hired the right coach, and I was wrong about that. I'll admit it. I thought that Thibodeau was going to come in here and then just everybody get exhausted after a while.
Well, that still may happen eventually. Like, these things have a shelf life.
They do.
They do. But the great thing is that, number one, their best player has led by example.
Sure.
That's the most important thing in the NBA. If your best player buys into what you're selling and he has success, then every night he's going to bring it. And if he brings it every night, then everybody else has got to bring it along with him. And they do have some mature players now, with Gibson and Burks and Peyton and Nerlens Noel. I mean, these guys aren't, they've been around the block a little bit.
Sure.
They've been kicked to the curb a few times. And, they've been bit pieces elsewhere. And this is like the collection of guys that basically said, okay, we're veterans. We know what's going on. This is how we're going to have to play. A lot of them do play. And, really the most unfortunate thing out of all of this is that Obi Toppin didn't get to do what he needed to do last year in the NCAAs. And you can tell that he's just not ready. He's just out of sync or whatever it is. And he's still a kid. And you just got to hope that this offseason, that somewhere along the way, the light goes on for him and he works on his game and he takes it seriously and he comes back vastly improved next year.
He was on the receiving end of a nice alley-oop last night, so that was good.
Yeah, he can leap, he can do all of that stuff, but I feel like sometimes when he's out there, it's almost like he's not involved.
No, you could just see it. And I think that the reason why Knicks fans get upset quickly over these draft picks is there's been some major busts in recent memory. That's why R.J. Barrett, people started to panic last year about him. That's why people are starting to panic a little bit about Obi Toppin now. But it's been masked this year because of the winning and also Emmanuel Quickley and what he's shown early.
Well, I mean, look how much better R.J. Barrett is. In a year, just in a year.
It's like a completely different player.
Right, and even Mitchell Robinson was on that trajectory, too.
Yeah.
So, the other thing, too, for the Knicks, it is about developing these players, too. So if you can't get 1, 2, or 3, and you're going to end up getting 8, 16, 25, you got to develop the players. And, I kind of feel like we have Again, when I talk about the Jets' instability, the Giants' instability, the Islanders' instability.
You feel like stability's here?
Well, because of the coach.
Yeah.
And because Leon Rose didn't overreact and didn't do anything stupid at the trade deadline.
Or in the offseason.
In the offseason for 2 years in a row now, or a year and a half, I should say.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.